This is an open letter to DeL BiGtReE and the team of the Highwire. I'm a huge fan. I've relied on your show for the past 2 months to help me understand this coronavirus situation. It's the only show I watch on a regular basis. And I've seen you speak, DeL, at the Capitol in California during a rally and was moved to tears. Your passion, your empathy, and your courage are inspiring. And you truly are one of the great leaders of the medical freedom community. It is for this reason that I appeal to you. While your work on coronavirus has been hard-hitting, cutting-edge, and enlightening, I believe that there is a piece missing. Let me explain. I have been learning a lot from an author and medical doctor named Tom Cohen. He tipped me off about a radical way of thinking about viruses. Have you heard of exosomes? They are the cell's way of excreting poisoned genetic material that is damaged by a toxic environment. Have you seen Dr. Andy Kaufman's work, exploring how what they identified in Wuhan likely were exosomes and not a virus? Have you had a chance to examine the work of David Crow of the Infectious Myth website and podcast? His work shows scientifically how, under scrutiny, this so-called virus was never proven to be contagious and appears not to be. It also explains how the PCR tests that they are using to determine if someone is positive are extremely unreliable and basically meaningless. There is also John Rappaport, an investigative journalist whom explains how this is not the first time the virus hunters have accused an illness on a virus without proof and with a lot of manipulating of the science. Now, it may be that you are aware of these ideas, this theory that perhaps the virus doesn't exist in the way that we think it does. Maybe you've determined, as I first thought, that we don't necessarily need to, in this critical moment, attempt to change a paradigm about viruses in general. After all, for COVID-19, even within the normal virus paradigm, the numbers don't make sense. This has been the work on your show. The death rate does not warrant this situation, even with all the ways they are inflating the numbers and even with the deaths that they are causing with improper medical treatments. We've seen the moving of the goalposts for reasons we are quarantined. And the censorship is obvious. The motive of mandatory vaccination is clear. Within the virus paradigm, one can definitively show all of this and build a convincing argument that we are being manipulated based on a false narrative. So why change a paradigm when that is obviously very difficult to do? Well, here's why. If COVID-19 is not really an infectious pathogenic virus, but rather an RNA fragment that our body produces as a result of toxins, then we're completely misunderstanding how we would actually solve this situation. It's not a vaccine or herd immunity. It's cleaning up our toxic environment. And worse, at some point in the future, there may be a more dramatic rise in toxicity in our environments. It could be an increase in things like glyphosate, or vaccinations, or some combination of many poisons. Or, in particular, many see a danger of electromagnetic radiation and new technology being rolled out, a new assault on our environment, and one that is beginning to look very suspicious. There is one more person with whom I urge you to study, Arthur Firstenberg, with his book, The Invisible Rainbow, A History of Electricity and Life. He goes through the past couple hundred years, linking pandemic illnesses with new rollouts of technologies that significantly alter our exposure to electromagnetic radiation. It could be that the new version of this technology is a primary culprit in poisoning people. Wuhan was famously one of the first places this technology was rolled out. New York City has it as well. Perhaps this explains the strange altitude-like sickness that Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel described, since it has been shown that some frequencies of this technology alter oxygen molecules. Consider that Elon Musk is in the process of putting up 12,000 low-orbit satellites into our atmosphere to beam this technology down across the planet, and he's launching 60 every 2 weeks. He also recently got permission to install 1 million antennae within the United States to interact with these satellites. Consider also that anything suggesting a possible link between this technology and coronavirus is being censored across the internet. Of course, our community knows very well why things are censored. All this being said, we might find ourselves in a situation where, for example, they begin activating a lot of these radars, and many people begin coming down with serious illness. They'll continue to blame it on coronavirus, and perhaps at that point they will no longer need to inflate the numbers, because the amount of people getting ill and dying will be truly epidemic. Maybe the numbers, unlike the last few months, will far outweigh a severe flu. What if all-cause mortality shoots through the roof? Then what? All of our arguments that we relied on in this moment would fail us. We would be impotent, even though in reality, the virus would still be fabricated and the people would be dying from toxicity. But at that point, can you imagine the fear? With many times as many people dying, we would be screwed. In fact, even many in our own community, if they had not been educated on the exosome theory, might fall into despair, and we might lose them to those that are manipulating the situation in order to proceed with all of their agendas, including mandatory vaccination. It is for this reason that we need to get to the root of this lie. We may be able to defeat the manipulation this time, but we cannot depend on a low death rate and obvious manipulation of numbers in the future, as I have described. I believe that to be truly responsible, you cannot deny this possibility. I encourage you to at least give some airtime on the high wire to the doctors talking about exosomes, and to people like David Crow and John Rappaport, who have seen this happen before, illnesses and deaths caused by toxic environmental conditions that were blamed on a virus. The truth is that if what I am suggesting is true, and I do believe it is, then by uncovering the fundamental lie of this virus, we would in fact expose the underlying lie of germ theory in general. We would cut off the primary foundational leg of allopathic medicine, and it could fall. We may have the key to not only winning the battle, but the entire war. With the utmost respect, Mikey Landings.